Closing clients is one thing, but making sure that your clients actually have a good experience working with you and don't ask for refunds, don't do chargebacks, and don't get buyer's remorse before they're even actually onboarded with you is a whole other issue. And it's arguably just as important, if not more important, than actually closing the deal itself. So here I'm going to show you our exact onboarding process from start to finish, the entire thing, so that by the end of this video, you're able to take this from what I show you, implement it into your AI agency, or even really just your agency in general, and make sure that you have a smooth onboarding process with your clients. Look, this is the exact onboarding process I've been using the entire time, with now doing over $500,000 selling AI to businesses. I'm going to show you how important this is, because believe me, there was a time at the beginning where we didn't have a good onboarding process and clients would not have a good time, or they get buyer's remorse before we even onboard them, and they start talking about getting refunds, all this sort of stuff before you even do the service, which is why having this onboarding process in place is so important, because now every single client has an amazing time. They don't have any refunds, chargebacks, nothing. They don't ever get buyer's remorse, because we're making sure that this is set up in a very meticulous and important way to make sure they're getting good value from the moment they pay. The reason that's so important, before I get into this here, is because after they've closed, your onboarding process is the first real experience that this business or this client is now having with you as an actual client. Everything beforehand that they've done with you was as a prospect. They weren't actually paying to work with you. Now they've paid, they're your client, and this is the first impression they are getting of your business behind the paywall. And so this is why making sure it's so important, because let's say you go to a restaurant, for example. Let's say you get there. It doesn't even matter. Let's say it's the best restaurant ever. You get there, but they take 30 minutes, 40 minutes to seat you. They take another 20 minutes to even get your first round of waters, all that sort of stuff. They don't even bring menus right away. The staff is a bit rude, or maybe they're just scatterbrained and they're not really paying attention. Then they bring you 10 out of 10 food. It doesn't even matter if that's 11 out of 10 food. You're probably never going back to that restaurant because you had a terrible first impression. But now, let's say it's another restaurant. You get there, the hostess or host, whatever, you get there, they're super excited. They're bringing you over, they're cracking jokes. You're already off to a good start, right? They're bringing you over to your table right away, waters right away. They're getting you your first round of drinks. Menus are there. They're engaging, they're charismatic. They're just making it a good experience overall. You get the food within 15, 20 minutes of sitting down, all that sort of good stuff that you want to see at a restaurant. Even if the food is, let's say, middle ground, 7 out of 10, you're probably going to come back to that restaurant because it's a very good experience. And that's why, similar to a restaurant, the onboarding process is so important. Because let's say even your service might not be a 10 out of 10 after, but if your onboarding process is so amazing and the experience that this client gets with your business is a 10 out of 10, your service doesn't need to quite be a 10 out of 10. Of course, you want it to be as good as possible, but it can make up for that. Whereas even if your service is a 10 out of 10, but your onboarding process is terrible, your client has a bad experience right off the bat, they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth about your business, and your service is going to need to be a 15 out of 10 to get them back. And so let's get into this, and I'll show you our entire onboarding process here so you can copy it yourself. So as you can see, it's pretty in depth. And of course, it's going to be an in-depth onboarding process if you want to make sure that your client is happy, right? So let's start from the very beginning here. First things first. This is, let's say they close, they sign your agreement, they pay you, they complete the stuff that you typically do on the sales call, right? But even let's say you close them on email or something, or text afterwards, whatever it may be, you close them, they are now your client. They paid, they signed, they are your client officially now. This is what we do. Let's say I'm the one who closed the deal, for example, as the closer. I will now submit a form, which we call it our sales report form. And so what this does is it's the closer filling out a form with all the info about the prospect, how they closed them, was it a tough close, all this sort of stuff. And this is getting sent directly to our solutions engineer or our Insight CSM, client success manager or solutions engineer. Technically, it's getting sent to both of them for them to take a look at it. And so, as you can see, this is what it looks like. They get pinged in Discord. I fill out the form, then that triggers an automation to send the info to our CSM and solutions engineer in Discord. And this is what they see. It says, make sure to give them their welcome call in the next 60 minutes. It pings them, a new client has been closed. Make sure to give them their welcome call in the next 60 minutes. I'll show you what the welcome call is and what that script looks like. The welcome call is a huge aspect, which I'll get into in a minute here. And then it says the closer, which would be, let's say, me, and then the client name, email, the program they signed up for, whatever it is, the contracted amount, how much they paid up front, the payment method, payment plans, the closing angle. Was it a tough close? Were they already pretty on board from the VSL YouTube videos they watched before? What are their expectations with this? What do they want to use the AI for? Where do they find out about us? So that's what we're getting. And this is getting passed on to the client success manager and the solutions engineer before they even know who the client is. This is their first kind of look at the client. This is what we call the handoff. This is where the closers handled everything, right? With the sales call, they close the deal. Now the sales report form is our way to have the closer hand off the client to now the client success team and the solutions engineer for the build of the AI itself. And so now that also triggers, when this gets submitted, it also triggers an email to get sent to the email, which is filled out here, the client email address. This gets sent to the client. And this is an email telling them to fill out this onboarding form. It's a couple basic steps, just telling them to make sure they fill it out thoroughly, all this sort of stuff. And they get sent this email within 2 minutes after the sales report form's filled. So the closer will let them know on the call, hey, these are the next steps for the onboarding process. You'll get 2 emails afterwards. This is the first email they get. And the second email they get is just one with our Discord link, just so that they can join the Discord in that. And then they're already in there before their onboarding call even. And now they fill out this form, and then you'll see the onboarding form in a second here. But also what they're getting, like I said, is the welcome call. The welcome call is happening within the next 60 minutes after they call, always within the next 60 minutes, because this is a thing we implemented, and it's been huge, 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 huge to get rid of buyer's remorse. And what buyer's remorse is, if you don't know, is if you've ever purchased something, let's say you join a program, for example, let's say you pay $3,000 for a program, and then like 2 hours later, before you even get onboarded or anything, you're just like, man, I think this was a mistake. You start having the nerves and the anxiousness. Nothing has changed about the program. It's still the exact same as when you were earlier really thinking it was amazing, but now you're just stressing, you're overthinking, the anxiety is building up, the stress is building up. You're like, man, I think I made a mistake. This is too much money. You're starting to get this buyer's remorse. That's exactly what it is. And then you maybe reach out to the person, you're like, hey, I think I just did too much. I took a step too early. I need a refund. Because let's say their onboarding call is not for another 2 days, for example. You always want to onboard them as soon as possible to limit the buyer's remorse. And you want to get them speed to value as quick as possible. Because if I close, let's say you close a client to pay 5-10K for your AI infrastructure, they're going to build them, but your onboarding is in like 2-3 days. They have 48 to 72 hours of just waiting. Buyer's remorse is probably going to hit because they paid a large amount. That's why you need to make sure your onboarding process, they're getting speed to value right away. That's why we say call this lead within 60 minutes because they're a client now. Call them within 60 minutes and go through this welcome script. So our CSM is going to call them and go through this script here. Let's say, hey, John, it's Jackson from Insight AI. It's great to meet you. How are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. They'll say they're doing great. Awesome. I just wanted to introduce myself and congratulate you for making this investment into yourself and your business. I know for some people it might be a little scary, but believe me, it's a good scary. I was talking to, they'll say the closer, I was talking to Jax, and he let me know about what made you join Insight AI when it comes to, looking to automate your appointment booking inside your business and kind of let go of some of your current dialers that are VAs overseas. And after hearing all that, I want to let you know, man, you're definitely in the right place for all this. We've done this so many times. Since we're on the phone, do you have any immediate questions for me? You're giving them value right away. Like this is within 60 minutes of them closing. They're probably still riding that high that you get when you sign up for something or you purchase something big. They're probably still riding that high, and you want to feed on that by giving them this welcome call. This massively changes the client's perception of what you do, because now they're saying, okay, they called me right away. They're welcoming me to this. This is going to be a good experience, because this is a great call to get. I remember when I joined, I got this from a program that I joined way back. They welcome called me, and it was amazing. It's awesome. It sets a very good tone for what you're going to be getting and what you expect. And so then you just answer any of their questions. And then as you can see, it's a very short script, nothing crazy, but that's all you need. And then we say, last thing I wanted is just to guide you. Last thing I wanted to just guide you on making sure you fill your onboarding form. From there, you'll be redirected to book your onboarding call. Once your onboarding call is booked, make sure you prepare any questions for a solutions engineer that you may have. So that way we can cover everything with you on your onboarding call. John, it was great to speak with you, man, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about you and the business. We'll see you on your onboarding call and inside our private Discord channel shortly. Be sure to check your email for that invite. Have a great day and welcome to the Insight family. That's a welcome call. And it's amazing the way that we've seen that impact our onboarding process. People love that. Sets a very good tone for what to expect. And so all of this is happening. Like they're filling out the onboarding form. They got the email, they're filling out the onboarding form, and they got a welcome call all within the span of 60 minutes after paying. So they're still riding that high. They're doing stuff because the last thing you want is for them to be sitting there idly, just with their thoughts, thinking, and getting buyer's remorse. That's the last thing you want. You want to keep them occupied with as much as possible. So this is, of course, for our end users, but we also have the exact same process for our partner program, which some of you guys may already be familiar with. And inside of that, we get them to start watching the modules right away, to always be consuming stuff, because we know everybody's going to get some sort of, buyer's remorse or anxiety when they invest in something. But we know if they actually consume what we provide, they're going to see the value in it right away. So that's the important thing. Now back to this here. So they get that welcome call, and now they're probably going to be filling the onboarding form right away as well. And so inside of the onboarding form, there's a couple little things here. I'm kidding. It's actually very fucking in depth. We're getting all the information we could possibly need about their business and what they want this AI to be doing for them. And so what we're getting is firstly their name, their email, their phone number, their business name, pretty standard information. We're going to get them logged into the platform. And so they're going to create their account with that link. We're going to get them in there. They're going to put their email and username or their email and password so that we can log in. They're going to drop a Q&A doc with typical kind of objections they get in their business, typical questions that they get, so that we can program the AI with that information so that it's fully equipped to answer every question that it can possibly get. Then a script that they're currently using, that maybe their human team's using, that they say is working good. Because if it's working good for the humans, it will work good for the AI. Just the volume will be so much higher that they'll get way better results. So we always ask for a script or a couple scripts that we're using so we can have kind of a general outline to know what's working for them and what they're currently using. How many agents did they purchase and what is the purpose of each of them? Maybe it's one outbound appointment booker, one kind of, let's say it's a roofing company, one that's booking inspections, one that's gathering, booking just general appointments, which we've done multiple times, a couple different agents through it, really taking care of the entire sales process. How many follow-up calls would you like for each agent? How often? So this is also super important, because this is going to be how we set up the sequences to trigger the AI to follow up with leads. Because you have a lead come through, the AI is going to call it right away, but most leads don't answer on the first dial, right? Which everybody knows. So you need to continue following up with them. That's where the volume starts to really be tough for a person, right? Because you can only make a certain amount of dials. But with the AI, we set it to follow up with all these leads every day. We can set it up to really follow up as often and as frequently as you like. We've done it before where it's once every 2 days for a month. We've done it where it's 3 times a day the first week, 2 times a day the second week, 3 times a day the third week, 2 times a day the fourth week. So there's all sorts of kind of just different ways you can set this up. And then the other one, explain your business as if you're explaining it to a kid, just a way for them to give us more information. Who's your niche or target market? Again, more information for us. Again, some of the stuff we know already, but we want to make sure they have it in writing. And so what are the main problems, constraints they face? That type of stuff is good for us to know. when do you want this agent or agent, what do you want this agent or agent to do specifically? Again, you saw us ask that earlier. We want them to write that twice so that we know they're not giving us different information, and we just word the question differently, but it's the exact same question as before because we want them to write it twice. And any other info we should know, just general stuff. Then they book their onboarding call, and this is with our solutions engineer. And so when this is done here, this gets sent to our solutions engineer, which you can see here. This triggers a zap as soon as they submit this form, which tracks all that info to Google Sheets so we can keep track of it, and then sends it to our Discord, where it pings our solutions engineer and says a partner has submitted their done fee fulfillment form, or in this case, it would be a client has submitted their fulfillment form, and all the info is stored there. And then our engineer has all that, and he's able to view all of it. He's able to take a look at all the information and make sure everything's clear, everything looks good, and he hops on the call with the client. This is the onboarding initiation call, we call it. So on this call, he's going over everything on the form, making sure everything is clear, making sure he's good to go for the build, making sure the client is fully clear on the expectations, the timelines, everything like that, what it's going to look like. Typically takes about 7 days for us to do the entire build, test, in the builds, integration, the testing. Testing's the bulk of it, and then the launch. So we want to make sure this thing is working perfectly so that you really don't need to touch it after it's launched. You can just let it run. That's the beautiful thing. And so we go through this here. The engineer is going to get access to any systems, CRMs, anything that he needs access to integrate with. And then he starts the build itself. And so in here, he's building the agents or agent, whatever it is. He's building the actual script, the knowledge base, all this sort of stuff, any webhooks or anything that you may need to do, the integrations, the follow-up sequences. We typically build the follow-up sequences inside of Go High Level, and they look pretty similar to this here. And so as you can see, a lead comes in. We have a wait, let's say 7 minutes, because let's say they had a funnel to where they could have booked organically. You don't want to call the lead right away if there's a funnel, right? Because they might book themselves, but most don't, right? Maybe 10 to 20% do. And then after, we give them the allotted amount of time, we have an if-else statement. And so if the contact, the lead, is in the booking automations workflow, don't call them, because that means they booked. The only way they could be in that workflow is if they booked. So we know if they're in there, not to call them because they've already booked. But if they're not in there, we add this tag to them. And what this tag does is it adds them to another workflow with a webhook that triggers the add call them. And so that's how you do that. And then every lead that goes through here will get triggered to call. Then the next day, see, wait 26 hours. So it's not 24 because we don't want to call it at the exact same time. Wait 26. So it's 2 hours later the next day. Exact same thing if they're in the booking automation, because maybe they booked on that last call. We don't want to call them again or that will ruin it. But if they haven't booked, we want to do the exact same thing. Add the tag, which adds into the workflow, which triggers the webhook, has the add call, and we automate that entire thing. And now that's the triggers, the basic integrations, all that sort of stuff, the CRMs, that type of stuff. And now let's say we finish this build process, we test the absolute crap out of it, because that's the bulk of the process here. It takes a week, but it's really, the build and integration is maybe 2 days, and then the testing is usually the rest. Testing, refining, going back and forth to the client, making sure they're happy with it. We make tweaks, we make little changes that they want done, maybe little tonality things, script changes, whatever it may be. We take care of all of that over this process. We're going back and forth. We're sending the client recordings of the AI to make sure they're happy with it. They test it out, all that sort of stuff. And then we hop on a final call at the end of the build. We call it the launch call. This is where our solutions engineers hop in the call with the client, making sure that everything is good, just going over the last little things, dotting the I's, dashing the, what's it called? Crossing the T's, dotting the I's on here, making sure everything's good to go, answering any last final questions. They do a couple live tests with the AI to make sure everything's perfect to go. We roll out the first batch here, and we show the client how it's going to be working so that they know what to do. Little changes that they may make, that's fine, but we don't want them to really be touching the AI, playing with it, because there's a good chance that they break it or things like that. We don't want that to happen, right? We want to be getting them the best results possible. And then we launch it. We stay in, brief contact with them over that period, but 9 times out of 10, it just does its thing, runs in the background. Clients message us occasionally if they need little changes and whatnot. But for the most part, it's a pretty, build and release type of offer where we don't really need to do much afterwards, other than we do little we do maintain it. We do little bits of maintenance here and there to make sure if updates happen on the platform, we'll make changes accordingly, all that sort of stuff, just so the client doesn't need to worry about it. And we take care of all that for them. And guys, that's how you have a smooth onboarding process, which equals a happy client and a ton of referrals and endless money for you, right? That's the perfect thing, because if you can get your client amazing results, that leads you to grow the business. It's pretty much automatically, right? And so this whole process here, you can see it's pretty in depth, right? Like when we first started, this was not what our onboarding process looked like. It was, hey, you paid us. All right, this is what it's going to look like. Oh, made a mistake here, this, that. You want to make sure your onboarding process is refined, because this is a game changer. We've implemented, this has been a long time since we've had this now, but this is huge, and you want to make sure you have a process similar to this. Hopefully you guys can just watch this and implement this, because it's super, super good. We set up all our partners with this exact same process so that they have it in place, along with all the sales process, everything like that. But yeah, and if you guys do want us to implement this into your business, along with the sales process, into your AI agency specifically, just, you can book a call below. I'll drop a link. And if you're a business owner watching this and you want us to build the AI agents into your business, you'd be going through this exact process I just showed here with us, then there's another link down below that you can go through that. But this is the whole process, guys, and it's nothing too crazy. I won't say that. It is a bit in depth, but you can see the most important parts are making sure the client's getting value right away. It doesn't need to be tangible, like, hey, they're making money right off the bat, but them perceiving it as a valuable a value from the program itself or from what you're offering, your service. Because look, they're getting emails right away, they're getting a welcome call right away, they're getting the onboarding form right away, and we never want them to be booking their onboarding calls. Like the longest we want them to be waiting is if it's a Friday and they book on a Monday. Any other day, it's they're getting onboarded later that day or first thing the next day. We never want them to be waiting longer than absolute max 24 hours. Like that's the latest. And so that's the whole onboarding process here. Make sure you implement one just like this, because it's very, very important that your client has a great first impression of you or business behind the paywall and actually after they become a client. But yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to cover in this video. I'll see you in the next one.